Today I'm going to talk why you didn't match. The way I see it, there are two groups of people. The first group of people are the people that only get a few interview or maybe zero, and the other group is the people who got good enough interview but unable to match. The reason why you didn't match is different whether you're in group one or group two. So let's talk about the group one. You didn't get any interview or very little amount of interview. The reason for this is simple. Your CV is just not competitive enough. So if you only do like 1 month of USCE, 2 months of USCE, but while other people, most people do at least 3 months of USCE, at least 3 publications, then of course you're not competitive enough and you won't get any interview at all. And method recommendations also matter. Score also matters. Where you apply also matters. If you apply to the program that has a high cutoff score, while your score is lower than the cutoff, of course you kind of like waste your money on applying to those programs, right? But most people won't do that mistake. I doubt it. Now, if most people actually have 4 letter of recommendation and you only have 3 that applies to that particular program, then of course you're not competitive enough and they will not extend you an interview offer. That makes sense? So the practical approach in this situation is basically to find out how fast other people are running. Which means if I were you, if I'm unmatched, what I'm going to do is to reach out to those people who manage to match and see if they're willing to share their CV or to find out their qualifications. Maybe they actually do like 6 months of USC. So you need to find out how competitive they are, and also it's different each specialty. For example, if you're in internal medicine, then probably the publications is not a lot, like maybe 2 or 3. If you go to something that's very, very competitive, plastic surgery or usually more of like the procedure-based type of specialty, then they will have more publications. And in order for you to be more competitive, you need to have more publications. That makes sense. So that is one reason why you don't match. If you don't get any interview or barely any interview at all. Now, what if you got good amount of interviews, but you didn't match? That actually happens, and that's really, really sad actually, because you expect if you got 6 or 7, 9, or even 10, then you actually expect you're gonna match. And to find out that you didn't match, it's really, really devastating. Now, there is one reason why that happened. And I would say the reason is because of the interview itself. You flung the interview. So I have a colleague, this was a couple of years ago. I didn't remember exactly how many interviews he got, maybe around 7 and 9. It was a good amount of interview, and he didn't match. And then during the SOAP, he found out that the program has an empty spot. Can you imagine? The program has empty spot. That means this program invite him for the interview, and after the interview was done, they decide not to rank him. Isn't that crazy? They decide not to rank the person they invite. And at that time, it was pre-COVID. So that means the programs has a limit on how many people they interview. And the programs usually are very, very careful on deciding who they're going to interview. Like my program director also mentioned that they're not going to invite somebody that they're not consider ranking. That's kind of rare. That usually don't happen because the slots are limited. So the reason why, if you have good amount of interview offers and you didn't match, is basically the interview. The other reason why you think this way is because of the match, how the match system works. Now, I don't know how much you understand about the match system works. If you want to understand a little bit more, then I would recommend you to watch one of my live streams about the ERAS and RMP and matching system. I explain how the match system works in that video. But basically, I'm trying to explain it like really quickly. Once you get the interview, all the factors are comparable. Just like when you do randomized control trial, okay? So all factors are comparable, all the risk factors comparable, only one thing that's different, the medication. So then you can compare, right? So this is the same thing. when you are invited to interview, pretty much all the factors are comparable. You have pretty much the same amount of letter of recommendations. There are 4 letter of recommendation. You guys have about the same amount of publications, the same amount of USCE. So you guys are kind of like comparable. You're the program already interested in you and invite you for the interview. So the only main factors that differentiate you between the other people is the interview. So if you didn't match, I would double down on learning the interview skills. You probably need to hire somebody, learn how to interview better. Maybe it's your English, maybe it's your accent, maybe it's your personality, maybe you're unable to connect with people, maybe you're too robotic. Whatever that is, you want to double down on the interview. So let's recap. Basically, there are 2 groups of people if you didn't match. The first one is you got barely no interview at all. And the other group is you got interviewed, but you didn't match. So for the first group, you want to optimize your CV. Make sure you have a good amount of letter recommendations. Make sure you are competitive enough so the programs can invite you. Make sure you apply to the right program. So but this one, I kind of doubt a lot of people make this mistake. I still have to remind people, I guess. If the program has a cutoff score like 240 and you got 220, just don't apply. So that's one easy way to decide which one you need to apply and which one is not. And the second group, if you got good amount of interviews but you didn't match, you have to work on your interview skill. And that's it pretty much for the video today. I'll see you again in the next video.